Alright, this is part 2 of our ratios note. Alright, and this is all about solving ratios. Now, when you have a ratio, the first two are going to be what I call the easy ones, and then we're going to get into the two harder ones here. Now, when you have a ratio, what you want to do and you're solving a ratio is we're comparing a ratio of 2 to 5 is equal to the ratio of 12 and to the value of x. And because I have the two first values of the ratio, what I can do is look at the relationship between the two of them. And if it's obvious, I can solve this very quickly. Now, to get from 2 to 12, what I look at is, in terms of multiplication or division, how would I get from 2 to 12? And I do know how that's going to happen. I can multiply by 6. So if I'm going from 5 to x, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to multiply 5 by 6. And so our x value is 5 times 6, which is 30. Now, our other one here, this time we know the two second parts of our ratio. And so I look at the relationship between 25 to 5. How would I get to 25, from 25 to 5 in terms of multiplying, or in this case, division? Well, I would divide by 5. And so, I'm going to do that to go from 45 to x. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to divide by 5. And so in fact, our x value then is going to be equal to take 45, divide it by 5, and you would get 9. Now, here's where things change up. In C, we have a 12 to 7 ratio is equal to a 9 to x ratio. So again, I look at my two numbers here. I got my first two parts of the ratio, and I got from 12 to 9. I can't come up with a factor that I can multiply or divide by 12 to get to 9. So here's what I'm going to do to solve it. And you can do this to solve any ratio, is that I'm going to write them as a fraction. In my first video, I talked about how there's two ways you could express a ratio. You could either write it as a ratio or you could write it as a fraction. That's great for solving. And so just like I did in the first video, I'm going to write it as a fraction where we have 12, the first part is the numerator, the second part of your ratio is the denominator, is equal to, same thing with the second ratio, 9 on the top, x on the bottom. And now I can solve for x, because a nice little trick here is when you have a fraction equaling a fraction, I can cross multiply and solve. And so I have, 12 times x is equal to 7 times 9. Which means you have 12x is equal to 7 times 9 is 63. And then finally, to get x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 12. And my x value is going to be, well, it's probably going to be a decimal because I couldn't figure it out nicely, which happens often. So I take 63, I divide it by 12, I get 5.25 is my x value. All right, in a similar fashion, for my last example, I can do the same thing because I've got big numbers. And I've got my first part of the ratio, in both ratios, I got the first part, but I have no idea how to get from 3 to 1,532. So I'm going to express both of them as a fraction, so the 3 to 2 ratio is going to be 3 over 2. Our equal sign is there. Then I'm going to have 1,532 with x in the bottom. And again, now because I have a fraction equaling a fraction, I'm going to cross multiply. Alright, so I have 3 times x, which is 3x. And then I have 2 times 1,532, which, doing a little quick head math, is going to be 3,064. And on this side we still have a 3x. And of course, to get x by itself, because that's what we want to know, I'm going to divide by our numerical coefficient. And our x value is going to be whatever, 3,064 is divided by 3, so it's going to be 1,000, and let's see here, again, going into the calculator, 3,064 divided by 3, it's going to be 1,021, and point, round to two decimal places, 33. So again, that's how, there's two ways to solve our ratios. There's the easy way where you can just look at the factor, and it's a much shorter calculation, but again, I'm showing my work. Or if I don't know what the ratio is, or how to solve it, or what the relationship between the parts of the ratio are, I can turn them into fractions, cross multiply, because you're going to have a fraction equaling a fraction, and solve for x, just like we have been doing with solving equations.